Hello and welcome to this video on factors impacting performance at National 5 PE. Today's video is going to look at naming different mental, emotional, social and physical subfactors. We're going to have a look at trying to develop understanding of what each of these subfactors mean, and then we're going to have a go at trying to explain the impact that they have on performance in an activity of your choice. So today's video is all about section 1 of your National 5 PE portfolio. Remember, your portfolio is worth 60 marks and 50% of your overall grade, and it comes in 3 parts. Today's video is going to look at section 1, which is an 8-mark question displayed on your screen just now, and this is done under exam conditions with no notes. Today's video is going to help you prepare for this particular part of the portfolio, and it's really important that you get to grips with what are the different subfactors for mental, emotional, social and physical, and that you're able to explain the impact that they have on performance in an activity of your choice. The question is, for each factor, mental, emotional, social and physical, explain its impact it has on performance, and it's worth 8 marks. For this question, you need to give 8 different examples, and I would strongly suggest that you give 2 examples from mental, 2 from emotional, 2 from social, and 2 from physical. So in National 5 PE and in higher PE, there is 4 factors that impact on performance: mental, emotional, social, and physical. On screen just now, you can see the different subfactors associated with each one and the ones that are going to be covered in today's video. For mental, we're going to look at concentration, decision-making, mental toughness and motivation. For emotional, we're going to look at anger, anxiety, fear and confidence. And for physical, we're going to look at CRE or stamina, speed, strength, power, accuracy, control and consistency of skill. Lastly, for social, we're going to focus on communication, roles and responsibilities, and team dynamics. We're now going to look at each of the factors in turn, and we're going to start with the emotional factor. So, as we mentioned before, there are 4 emotional subfactors: anger, anxiety, fear, and confidence. So, what is anger? Well, anger is having a strong feeling of annoyance or frustration, something which you cannot move beyond, and something that has caused you to get angry. Now, what does that look like in sport? It could be blaming yourself for making a particular mistake. It could be getting angry or frustrated at an official for a bad decision. It might be getting angry or annoyed at an opponent for a bad tackle or a bad challenge. It could be getting frustrated and angry at a poor performance or score. And it might even be getting angry at a teammate, a coach, for a mistake or an error that they have made. So what is anxiety? Well, anxiety is having a feeling of unease. It's about being nervous or worried. And this can be mild or it can be severe. Now, I'm sure everyone has felt these emotions before in their life at some point, and it's usually when we're doing something which causes us to feel stressed or under pressure. In terms of a sporting context, this can lead to a decrease in performance if we are stressed, nervous, worried or anxious. So this feelings of anxiety could be brought on before an important performance. It could be when stepping out onto stage in front of a large audience or a large crowd. It might be that there's a feeling of anxiety brought on by a pressure situation. It could be a game-winning penalty, a free throw, performing in a cup final or an important competition which makes you feel nervous or worried, and you have that kind of sick feeling in your stomach. Or lastly, it could be about competing against an opponent who's beaten you before or someone that you maybe perceive to you as being better. And these are all things that could bring on feelings of anxiety. The next subfactor we're going to look at is confidence, and this is about having a strong belief in your own ability. Now, confidence normally affects how you perform in sport. If you're overly confident, sometimes your confidence level can go up and down. It can fluctuate depending on how well you're performing over a number of weeks or during a performance. And if you are really confident, then you're going to be more willing to take risks and try things and not worry about mistakes. So as we've said here, performing well will build confidence. Things like getting praise from your teammates or coaches could help to encourage you and build confidence. However, making mistakes, particularly if it's a repeated mistake, is something that could lower confidence and may lead to a decrease in our performance level. So we're now going to have a little look at emotional example answers and how to structure your answer. So how we're going to structure our answer for this particular question, remember it's 8 marks, so we have to speak about 2 different emotional subfactors, and we're going to give the impact that they have on performance from an activity of your choice. Now, I would strongly recommend that you write about an activity here that you either do outside school or an activity that you know well. So we're going to answer using this 3-step structure, and the first thing we're going to do is to state the impact and give a really detailed and specific example. So we might say something here like, anger has a negative impact on performance in football when the referee gives a decision against me. That might be my first bit. The second part here is then to give the impact this has on the performer. So this is going to be personal to you. And lastly, this is going to be where we give the impact on performance. And this is going to be using keywords like this results in or this leads to. And this is going to come back to the performance or to the match or your performance and how you got on here. So on screen just now is an example for anger. So anger can have a negative impact on performance in football. I got angry after being fouled by an opponent in a game of football. So that's my specific example. This meant I got frustrated and shouted at the player who had tackled me. This led to the referee giving me a yellow card for dissent, meaning I had to be careful with my tackles for the rest of the match. So that last sentence there is the impact on performance. All of that would be needed for 1 mark. Here's an example for anxiety. So anxiety can have a negative impact on performance in basketball. I felt anxious before taking a free throw to win the match. This meant that I couldn't control my breathing and my whole body felt rigid. And here's the impact on performance. This led to me taking a shot which lacked power and was an air ball, missing the basket and costing my team a chance to win the game. Here's another example for anxiety, but this time from gymnastics. Anxiety has a negative impact on performance in gymnastics. For example, as I begin my run-up for my side aerial, I was overthinking the time of it. This meant that my foot placement was off and I failed to land the aerial, resulting in me being too embarrassed to perform this trick again later in the sequence and losing marks at the competition. Lastly, here's an example for fear. Fear had a negative impact on performance in rugby when playing as a fullback. When the opposition number 13 broke through our defensive line, I was scared to tackle him as they were running at me at speed and they were bigger than me. This meant that I did not fully commit to tackling them. This resulted in the number 13 breaking through my weak tackle, and as I play fullback and act as our last line of defence, they scored a try. So we're now going to move on to the mental factor and look at how it impacts on performance, but first we're going to look at each of the sub-factors and what they might mean. So the 4 factors that we're going to look at are concentration, decision-making, motivation, and mental toughness. So what is concentration? Well, concentration is being able to focus your attention and block out any distractions. Now, this might be to do with focusing on an opponent if you are marking someone. It could be focusing on an opponent, such as the shuttle in badminton, or it could be focusing on a particular part of a skill. The second sub-factor we're going to look at is motivation, and motivation is really about having a willingness or a desire to do something. If you can't get out of your bed in the morning, then that shows that we've got a bit of a lack of motivation. If you've got a willingness and a desire to get up and go to training and be active, then that's going to have high levels of motivation. Now, motivation can fluctuate, it goes up and down, but what we want here for our performers is for them to show motivation to get back and defend, for example, to keep going and keep pushing when they're tired or fatigued, maybe to encourage other people when they're losing, and it's all ultimately going to be about not giving up. The third sub-factor we're going to look at is decision-making. Now, decision-making is all about making choices. It's about choosing from a range of options or outcomes, and the best performers will make decisions really, really quickly, under pressure, in the heat of the moment, and they can then reflect on their decision-making. Did I make the right choice? And adapt their decision-making accordingly. Now, decision-making might be who to pass to, when to pass, how to pass. It could be where to move, what shot to play, and then in particular what technique they might use when playing a shot. The last sub-factor we're going to look at is mental toughness, and this is about an ability to cope with challenging situations, and it's closely linked to resilience. It's about being able to show composure in pressurised situations and not give up when things are difficult and when things get particularly tricky in a performance. It's about having high levels of mental toughness to overcome adversity. Again, this is our question for each factor: mental, emotional, social, and physical. Explain its impact on performance. And we're now going to have a look at some mental example answers. Just a reminder of our answer structure. So, concentration can have a positive impact on performance in basketball when playing half-court man-to-man defence. So that's my specific example. This means that I'm able to focus on marking my opponent whilst not getting distracted by the movements of others around me. This leads to me staying tight to my opponent and intercepting passes that are made to them, regaining possession for my team and setting up a fast break. So that's the impact on performance at the end there. Concentration can have a negative impact on performance in cheerleading. For example, I was too focused on what the crowd were shouting at me that I lost concentration while executing the group stunt, so I won't be able to hold the flyer as she went up into the air. This meant that the lift failed, resulting in our team dropping marks for execution. Again, there's the impact on performance there. The next example is from football, and it's about decision making. So decision making can have a positive impact on performance in football. As a centre midfielder, I have an option to pass the ball wide to the right mid, but I spot the striker making a run in behind the defence. I choose to play the ball through behind the centre backs. This meant that the striker was able to get on the end of my pass and is now 1v1. This leads to him being able to sprint in behind the defence and shoot past the goalkeeper, scoring a goal for my team. All of that would get 1 mark. We're now going to move on to probably the easiest one to talk about, and that is how the physical factor impacts on performance. Just a reminder of our physical sub-factors. So we've got 2 different headings here. We've got physical fitness sub-factors, and they are CRE or stamina, speed, power and strength. And then we've got physical skill related sub-factors, and we're going to look at control, accuracy, agility, consistency of skill and technique. So CRE or stamina is being able to sustain an effort over a large period of time, and this is going to be particularly important towards the end of a performance. It's really important when you write your answers here that you want to talk about towards the end of a performance and how having good or bad CRE has an impact on your performance. Speed, well, this is all about being able to move quickly, and for most of us, this is going to be writing about being quicker than an opponent, for example, in swimming, or if we're doing athletics, then in a 100-metre race, it's about being quicker than your opponent. Some examples of speed from different activities could be having speed with and without the ball. So this could be when you're attacking or when you're defending. It could be speed to get around the court in badminton. It might be speed to beat an opponent in a race in athletics or in swimming. And it could also be speed to beat a defender, a bit like that last example showed us in football. Power, this is all about being explosive, and it's about being able to exert speed and strength quickly. If you're really powerful and explosive, this is going to help you when jumping high, when heading a ball, when rebounding a ball in basketball, when driving off the blocks at the start of a sprint race in athletics, or when diving in off the board at the start of a swimming race. So we're going to have a little look at some physical fitness example answers. Again, just a reminder of our answer structure. The first one is on CRE, and it comes from football. Stamina can have a negative impact on performance in football. As a centre midfielder, I need stamina towards the end of the game when the other team is counter-attacking. Again, look how detailed that example is. This means that as I'm tired, I'm not able to track back and help to support the defence. This leads to me not being able to sprint back and tackle opponent's centre midfielder who is breaking, creating an overload for the attack and creating an opportunity for them to score because I am tired. The next example is from swimming, and it's to do with power. So power can have a positive impact on performance in swimming when standing on the starting blocks. This meant that I can generate power and push off the block to spring forwards quickly at the start of the race when the gun goes off. This leads to me getting a quick start at the beginning of the race and getting ahead of the other swimmers. The last example here is on speed. Speed has a positive impact on my performance in rugby. When I received the ball on the wing, I was able to burst past the opposition winger without them tackling me or slowing me down. And what's the impact of this? Well, the impact is that I broke through their defensive line, which resulted in me being unopposed and being able to have a clear run-in to score a try. We're now going to have a quick look at physical skill sub-factors, control, accuracy, agility, consistency of skill, and technique. The first example here comes from badminton, and this is to do with accuracy. So accuracy is important when playing a drop shot in badminton. This means that I can hit the shuttle close to the net on the opponent's side, forcing them to lunge to reach the shuttle. This leads to them lifting the shuttle up into the air and me being able to smash it downwards and win the point. So there's your impact at the end there. We're now going to move on to the social factor and its impact on performance. And there's 3 main sub-factors that we're going to have a look at in this video: communication, roles and responsibilities, and team dynamics. So what is communication? Well, communication is about sharing ideas or feelings with someone else, and it can be through verbal means by speaking, or it can be through non-verbal means such as pointing or gestures or eye contact. Now, some examples of communication and how they relate to sport are about alerting someone if you're in a free space to receive a ball in netball. It could be about organising a defence, organising our man-to-man marking at a corner in football. It might be about speaking to your teammate and telling them that you're about to hit the shuttle in badminton if you were playing doubles. It can be about calling to your teammate that they've got a man coming towards them or a defender coming towards them in a team game. Or lastly, it could be about signalling or pointing to a teammate that you want the ball played into a particular area, particularly as a striker in football. The next sub-factor that we're going to look at is team dynamics. Now, team dynamics is all about how you and your teammates get along and how you help to support each other during a performance. And the most successful teams have got good relationships and good team dynamics with each other, and they're willing to work hard to cover each other and help each other as things get difficult. Now, ways in which we can develop team dynamics are about having clearly defined roles within the team. It's about having clear communication between players, and it's also about trusting and believing in each other. And if you can do that, then you're going to develop really good team dynamics and relationships with each other. Some examples of team dynamics might be encouraging a teammate after they miss a penalty kick. It could be covering for a teammate as a particular player goes forward, and this has been particularly evident in football teams where the fullbacks like to bomb on. The centre midfielders having to cover that space and working together shows really good team dynamics. It could be supporting a teammate to make an overload and make a 2v1 in a particularly wide area. Or it could be filling in for someone else's position in a zone defence to make sure that your team is working together. The last one we're going to look at is roles and responsibilities, and this is having an understanding of your role or position within a formation or a group, and understanding what your job is in attack and defence for a team game, and making sure that you carry out your role to the best of your ability. Some examples here might be knowing your position as a right mid in football, knowing where you're meant to be in attack and where you're meant to be in defence. It could be understanding and completing your role in a zone defence in basketball, or it could be having an understanding of what your positional duties are in a sport like rugby as a fullback so that you can cover space in the backfield. We're now going to have a look at some social example answers for the last part of this video. So communication is important when defending a corner in football. That's my specific example. The impact that this has on me is this means I'm able to organise my teammates to decide who to mark and block their runs. And the impact on performance here is this leads to our team being able to head the ball away and set up a counter-attack. Have another example here from communication. So communication can have a negative impact on performance when part of a 4x100 metre relay team. This is in athletics. For example, a lack of communication such as not shouting a hand or go can result in a mistimed or poorly executed baton exchange. And this can lead to the baton being dropped and disqualification for our team. The last example here is on team dynamics, and team dynamics is important when playing a zone defence in basketball. This means that if one of my teammates steps out of the zone to pressure the ball, I'm willing to step across and cover his space. As the ball is played into that space he left, I can cover. This leads to me being able to intercept the ball, stop the attack, and begin a fast break for our team. So just a reminder of our questions and all the things that we've covered. We've covered a lot of example answers there. This is the 8-mark question for each factor: mental, emotional, social, and physical. Explain its impact on performance. Now, what you need to do here is identify 2 sub-factors that relate to your sport, and you're then going to give how they impact on performance. And remember that impact can be positive or negative. It might be a good idea at the start of your Section 1 test to write these down in the margin and create a bit of a plan. And just some absolutely top tips here. Remember, it's all about telling the marker what is the result or the outcome and really explain what happens as a result of poor concentration. Hope you found this video useful, and it will be good preparation for your Section 1 exam as part of your portfolio. There's more content like this on my YouTube channel, Mr. Cassell's PE, and you can also keep up to date with me on Twitter. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.